Woman would have trouble with childbearing. The serpents would bruise the children's heel, and they would bruise his head. Told man he would die. He'd earn his living by the sweat of his brow. All these things came to pass. But then after God put them out of the Garden, he made them coats of skin, put them out of the Garden of Eden. And then during the course of time, she said, I have begotten a man-child from God. God has given her a child, a man-child, named him Cain. And she bare again and bore his brother Abel. Now it went from that verse of she's had these two children, two babies born unto her. Didn't allow time for conception. Didn't talk nothing about any other childbearing pain she went through. Nothing about the children coming out and being born. It's just she bore Cain, then she bore Abel. One church went to the next, and then she has two sons. And then the verse after that, now she got grown men sons. And they often sacrificed them to God. Cain rose up and slew his brother out of jealousy, hatred. It goes on to tell us about the generations of Cain. And then it skips on down after that. It finished telling about the generations of Cain. Then it goes back and talks about Adam and Eve. And then she said, God has given me, Adam knew his wife, and she conceived, and she bare a son named Seth. And she said, I have gotten a man-child from God to replace to replace Abel, whom Cain slew. And then in the 5th chapter of Genesis, it tells us how old Adam was when he had Seth to be his son. Adam was 130 years old when he begat Seth. So that shows you a lot of time took place from the Garden of Eden that's not recorded as to what was going on during the time. But I surmise that Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, that Adam and Eve was alone there in the Garden of Eden for about 40 years. And the reason I would suggest that is a lot of things happen in terms of 40. Jesus and Moses fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. The children of Israel wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. So a lot of things happened in terms of 20, 30, 40s and things like that. So that's kind of an indication that something along those lines may have happened. That's how that played out. But then she had these sons. They probably around 40 years old. Cain slew Abel. But Cain had a wife. Doesn't talk about Eve giving birth to any daughters, but they had lots of other children after they started reproducing. But it just doesn't give any other names. Only one it gave was Cain and Abel and then Seth. And then it said Adam, after he had Seth, he produced, lived 800 more years, and he had sons and daughters. But it doesn't list any other names of other sons or daughters. Just say he had sons and daughters. And the same was when Seth was born. Seth lived 105 years. But it said after she begat Seth, then it said men began to call upon the name of, Seth had a son, he named her Enos. And then it said men began to call upon the name of the Lord. But when they began to call upon the name of the Lord, that was 105 years later. They began to call on the name of the Lord when Adam was 235 years old, when the men began to call upon the name of the Lord. So see, that's how stuff is so different. We just assume that it all took place in a straight line, a few days, a few weeks, a few months later, and did many times. That was many, many years. As I say, think about it. I calculated it and figured it out. You know how long 1 minute is to God in his time? 1 minute to God is like 253 days for us, almost a year, about 9 months that it would be from the time God says or does something if it's only 1 minute to him. And 5 minutes of God's time is like 4 minutes to us. We get so impatient waiting on God, thinking God's going to do this, God's going to do that. We've been patient, we think, a long time. But if you've been patient for 4 years, you've only been patient like for 5 minutes the way God counts time. It's not long at all. I guess that's why it says when Jacob was serving his uncle Laban for his wife, he served him for 7 years and said, pastors, it was just like a few days. God can let our weeks and days seem to be few, comparatively so, if we serve him. We need to learn to serve God with a glad and pure heart. We thank God for you joining us today. We're going to close out with a song. I want to live